Thank you, Monica. Thank you for that introduction. And thanks to Revel 11. And thanks for everybody for being here. You have so many options of where you could be spending your energy. And you're choosing to spend your energy here this morning on this Friday morning with us. So I thank you for showing up physically and figuratively, and also for your courage for diving into self-worth, because it is a loaded question. It is a loaded topic. So what this is going to look like today is it's going to be interactive, and meaning that it's going to be offering experiential insights, because I'm, you know, the purpose of a discussion isn't to change maybe our self-worth in 30 minutes, but what we can do is we can actually explore our self-worth, and in particular our relationship with self-worth and how that relates to us particularly. Because I could talk to you all day about self-worth, but really what's important is your relationship with self-worth, how you see it, how you view it, how you live it, where how you want to live it, as opposed to someone just telling you what to do, right? So the first half is going to be just kind of setting us up for the second half, which is going to be a little more experiential. So we'll have the time to reflect. We can reflect just by thinking about it. We can reflect by writing it down in your journal, typing it on your computer or on your phone. So know that that's an option if you want to have that available or have something handy for yourself. And I'll start this with, when we talk about self-worth, let's acknowledge something right now, even before I introduce myself further, is that you are perfect as you are right now. And I know if someone told me that, I'd be like, yeah, but yeah, okay, I've heard that before. So know that I'm saying that because I do believe it. And you are perfect as you are. And we may not always believe it, I know. What matters though is that we start to say it to ourselves, and and then the belief will come. It will come. So you are perfect as you are, and you are always deserving of your self-worth. So even if whatever we've done in our lives, we are still deserving of our self-worth. I'm just reflecting on that for a moment. You are deserving of your self-worth. Because it's funny, because I notice my own thoughts going in, okay, what have I done in my past that I'm like, I regret, I feel upset about, or I feel just uncomfortable about, or I feel like, I feel guilty about, shameful about. And even those moments, we are still deserving of self-worth. So I'll be completely candid and vulnerable and honest with you in this space. At least that's my intention, is to hold a space here for us that is judgment-free, it's encouraging, and it's honest, transparent, vulnerable. And that's something I'm always personally working on, because I did not come from that background. So if I haven't had the opportunity to talk with you before, I am Jaime Komer, and I am an empowerment coach and a speaker and founder of Happy Vibes, an organization dedicated to elevating well-being. I believe wholeheartedly that each of us can be the light that we wish to see in the world. And it starts with our relationship with ourself. And self-worth is really a hearty piece of that, right? Our self-worth is a hearty piece of our relationship with ourself, how we view ourselves. And I really, as Monica shared, very similar actually. I went through a bit of identity crisis as well after retiring from professional sports. When I competed in the Olympic Games in 2008 in Beijing, China with the USA women's water polo team, I retired a couple years after that. And leaving the title of professional athlete was one of the most traumatizing things. And I don't think I actually acknowledged it at the time. So essentially when we shift, we have a life transition. So think of a life transition that you've had for yourself, right? Whether it's from a career, becoming a mother, and whatever, leaving something or coming into something new, we kind of notice those pulls. What are we pulling with us? So what are we taking with us? And what I was finding was that I was defining everything of who I am based on my accomplishments, my achievements. So I was very much related to, my self-worth was related to positive experiences. So if I won a game, good job, Jaime, you did it. You're a good person. You're worthy of things. Versus if I lost a game, and being a goalkeeper, a professional goalkeeper, losing a game sometimes feels like it's on you. So I was in high stress situations, and I would put stress on myself, and I did not know how to acknowledge it or how to process it as well. And furthermore, for the Olympic Games, I was the backup goalkeeper. So I started to believe that I was a backup in my own life, that I wasn't the best in my own life, and that I didn't deserve to be the best of myself. It was almost like I was like a backup person in my own life. And I started acting like that. And so self-worth can really play a role in our physical well-being, our emotional well-being, and just how it plays out in everyday life. So remember, you are perfect as you are, even though it may not feel like it right now. Sometimes, for myself, I'll say it from that. And this opportunity is for self-exploration and self-growth, as opposed to, say, self-help. It's the feeling of there's nothing wrong with us right now. We're right where we're meant to be. Let's just explore and let's be curious today. Self-worth can come up in a lot of different ways. And it plays out in our daily fulfillment, our sense of who we are, and it helps us make our choices. When you honor your self-worth, you give others permission to do the same. You're showing others that you believe that you matter. And this is a belief, and it's also an act. So I believe I am worthy and I can act on it. And what that looks like often is our boundaries, our healthy boundaries that we set up for ourselves, that we're really responsible for creating. So to give you an example, when I started, after I retired from water polo, I went to the health and wellness fitness community. I started teaching yoga and spin and Pilates, and I was learning about how to heal our body and our gut. And I started diving more into kind of like life consulting, almost a little bit of consulting of this and that, and on well-being and health. And it was very new to me. I didn't really have a structure to follow. So I felt really uncomfortable with it, but I was excited about it. And when people started hiring me for it, I didn't have any cancellation policy or rescheduling policy. I didn't know if someone canceled on me, I'd feel like a gut just pain in me. I'd be like, oh, that's just a waste of my time. And I didn't know what to do about it. I wasn't creating certain boundaries for myself or for my business because I didn't believe that I deserved it just because I was new. And even when I was doing practice coaching, through my master's degree in health and wellness coaching, part of the process is you practice coach clients. And even though there's no money exchange in that, there is still some sense of partnership. And I had a client who was not responding, who would not meet us for our calls. And I was even overseas in Japan, a family vacation. And this client, I was waiting. I chose not to go on a family trip or an outing. And I was waiting in the hotel and my client canceled. And I had no policy around that or engagement or a discussion about how to honor my worth. And so boundaries can look like many different things. Now, if we look at, say, for example, your dentist, your doctor, your naturopath, they have a policy set up, right? They have some type of structure or framework that they are transparent usually about, hopefully, that says, okay, when there's a cancellation, this is what happens. When you need to reschedule, this is what happens. If you reschedule or cancel within 12 hours, we're going to charge full fee, whatever that may look like. We know it. We know that structure. We honor it. We're like, okay, I get it. How often do we do that for ourselves, though? How often do we have some type of framework, a boundary for ourselves to honor our worth? And our worth can show up in many different ways, right? It can look like time. In my examples of coaching, I felt like that was my time, also my energy. It can look like our resources that we give, so our expertise that we share. It could be our voice. It could be so many different ways and in different relationships. As a mother of two young ones, I feel like my self-worth is being challenged, or my boundaries are being challenged about where I spend my energy, where I spend my time, and to acknowledge that, say, for example, I do deserve me time, even with little kids, right? So what we're going to do with this discussion and this exploration of self-worth, just already notice kind of what's turning in your head, coming up for you as I'm talking about this. Is the talk in the head, is it reassuring, positive? Is it was what I'm saying resonating? Is it kind of negative, talking down, like, oh yeah, you do that. Oof. Just start to acknowledge in this judgment-free space about the conversation for yourself around self-worth. And I'm just pulling up the chat section because I'm going to start asking some questions. So we're going to have that available. So if you have the chat section available, just feel free to pop that up. And the beautiful thing about health self-worth is what we're finding in this discussion is that we can cultivate and create healthy boundaries for ourselves. And it doesn't matter what we've done in the past. What matters is simply a single step, a single action that we take, one single action. And so we don't have to just change our world to change our self-worth. We can just take one little step. And that little step usually starts with a sense of acknowledgement of where I want to take a step. Where do I want to make a single shift in my self-worth if that's important to me? And it's okay if it's not. Maybe today you just want to absorb this information and that's where you want to be at. Wherever you're at is perfect. So if we want to detach our self-worth from what we do, we need to spend some time acknowledging our current relationship with self-worth through what I call experiential insights, essentially a way of me guiding you with questions to explore, okay, what do I want to do? What is self-worth to me? What does that look like? So we'll explore that a little bit. Sound good? All right, we're going to get rolling into the kind of the experiential space. Yeah, so I encourage you just to get comfortable and cozy. And I'll ask a number of questions. The first two I'd love to hear, if you're open to it, to share in the chat section. So it just gets our conversation going, the interaction going, to know that we are not alone in this. We are all here for a reason. We're all curious about self-worth. And we all have moments of like, what am I doing with my self-worth? No matter what we've experienced or accomplished in our life. And that's the key, right? Whatever we've done, whatever our title is, to detach it. So my first question for you to explore this lovely Friday morning is, what does self-worth mean to you? What does self-worth mean to you? So if you're open to it, put it in the chat section with everybody, and you can send it privately to me as well if you prefer. And maybe just in a sentence, single sentence, what it is. Notice what comes up for you. What does self-worth mean to you? And as you're typing that out, I'll share my own. To me, self-worth is loving who I am in all situations and moments, and honoring my boundaries in a way that's in my highest good. Yeah. So Anna shares respect for yourself. Yeah. Monica shares self-worth, feeling good about myself, confident. Yeah, thank you. Yes. So when we start to define what self-worth is, then we can start to look at, well, what does that look like in my work life? Where does that look like in my whole life? And my intention is also to leave some space for questions at the end too. So know that if I'm not getting to something that you want to talk about for self-worth, that we have the opportunity for that. Thank you. Okay, Dana shares how I care for myself and respect my time and energy. Joyce shares positive self-esteem. Madison, you're sharing self-worth to me means walking through the world with confidence and clarity. Yes, I'm hearing a lot of respect, positive, confidence. Laura, taking good care of myself. Yes. Okay, thank you. Teresa, courage to set boundaries. Now, feel free to keep answering that if you haven't yet. Next question is, where does it live in your body to you? Where do you feel like your self-worth lives in your body? If it lives somewhere, where do you feel like you feel it? The first thing that pops in your head. I'll tell you mine in a moment, but I don't want to influence anybody's choices. So I'll just leave it like this for a moment. I'm hearing heart. Where does it live in your body? And it may just live everywhere. It may just like be in your cells. And that's awesome too. Stomach. Yeah. That's where mine lives too, Monica. Mine is like in my gut. My self-worth is in my gut. But it totally connects to my heart sometimes. Gut, mind, chest, mental construct. Yeah. So look at all the ways that we can look at self-worth, and that self means in different ways. feel free to answer these questions. What I ask is start to tune in wording so you can journal these or just think about them and reflect them so you can not be focused on typing or anything. When do you not feel self-worth? When do you not feel self-worth? And if any of these questions don't feel okay to answer, it's your time here, so you do not need to answer them. When do you not feel self-worth? Yes, thank you. Joy shares when someone says something negative. Yeah, Madison, when I'm struggling to finish a project or generally just in the process rather than finished. Outcome-oriented self-worth. Oh, resonate with that one, Madison. Always, it's like when I blank. Oh, well, we can touch on that. Yeah. I'm taken for granted, when I feel like I'm failing. Yes. Thank you. Now let's flip it. When do you feel self-worth? When do you feel self-worth? Focusing on when you do feel self-worth. When do you feel that just yumminess inside of you, whatever that looks like? When do you feel self-worth? Notice the first thing that popped in your head, whether if it was a situation, maybe notice what was at the heart of that situation. That can help kind of narrow things in for you. Maybe practicing yoga, when I'm kind, and do something unexpected for someone who needs a cheer or smile. Yeah, I do not feel self-worth when, to go back to self-worth, not self-worth, when I start to hear myself saying, oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. That feeling of, oh, I'll be better, I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied when I get this. When I do feel self-worth is when I tune inward and listen to my heart, and that feeling of my boundaries of creating them and realizing, okay, for example, having little ones saying, I need some time for myself. Okay, partner, can you spend some time with the kiddos? I'm going to go meditate. That's like when I feel, yes, I honor my work. Okay. When I have a good session with a client, like I feel like I help them. Yeah. When I'm in the flow and feel that there are minimal obstacles to imaginative and out of the box thought. When there is an ease in living. Ooh, an ease in living. That sounds just yummy. When I feel good energy, when I finish a personal project. Yes. These all sound very personal. They all sound very internal too. This feeling, many of them feel like good feelings, like this like sense of gratitude or excitement. Okay. Now, why is self-worth important to you? Think about why self-worth is important to you. Feel free to pause. If your head's getting busy, just pause and take a breath in and out. Self-worth is important to you because I can show up as my true self. I feel like I'm truly at my happiness when I honor my self-worth, even though it can be so challenging to create boundaries, especially in business. I've noticed, even in the past around finances, that was always a big challenge. And once creating those, though, I've always felt like, wow, you just honored your self-worth. You listened to your heart. Yeah, that voice in your head, the one that says, "Yay!" Yes. So why is self-worth important to you? Let's go ahead and marinate on that. And feel free to take a screenshot or anything just to remember these questions, or I can send them to you afterwards as well. It's our foundation because it brings about a sense of peace. Yes, we're like rooted, our self-worth is rooted into us. It puts me on equal footing with everyone else. It does, doesn't it? Because as out-oriented as I am, I know that creating is so much easier when in line clarity and when I move with confidence in my actions from a place of peace, from like the inside out, right? Gives me clarity so I can feel the good energy that helps me feel self-worth. I'm sharing and here the similarity connecting as well. About on a scale of 10, what is your self now? What's the first number that popped into your head? What is your level of self-worth? I feel like mine's a 7. That's just the first number that popped into my head. Just go with that. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, and we're just gonna, without judgment, notice the judgment that did pop in afterwards of that conversation. I know some popped in my own head. Just let that aside. Just say, okay, that's what it is. Okay. And because 10 is not perfect. Let's make that acknowledgement. 10 doesn't mean perfect. 1's perfect, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything is perfect, meaning that it's exactly where we're meant to be, and that to practice that self-acceptance too. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is self-worth to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it? I know the first word that just popped into my head was 10. So boom, 10. Yeah, Joyce, I hear you. 10. Yes, 9. Yes. 9. 10, 9. It's fascinating, and just notice those numbers, the difference between what you feel like your level is and what you feel like the importance is. Now, think of one example of you practicing self-worth that hasn't existed yet. It could be as wild and crazy as you want it to be, or it could be a very practical, real thing that you are, experiencing today. One example of you practicing self-worth. Just to start to kind of hone in on an example of what self-worth actually looks like in your life. Whether, again, it's a bigger goal, or whether it's a bigger goal as in, okay, speaking around, I'm writing a book proposal right now. So, which is new and frightening because, in my head says, oh, I'm not a writer, right? And so to move past that belief and to acknowledge, wait, your self-worth is inside, not what people say about you being a writer or not being a writer, or whatever you choose to write. And so a bigger goal could be, I'm going to receive a book deal that honors my worth. So it's not happening yet. It's something maybe in the future that I'm going to honor my worth receiving a book deal, not just any book deal, but one that honors my worth. One more immediate is I'm going to pencil in 10 minutes to meditate today. That's like the one I always have to focus on. Yes. Okay. So an example of you practicing self-worth. Feeling like I don't have to check in before I do something, yoga, meditation, speaking up in the moment when a boundary needs to be set. Ooh, yes, in the moment. Oh, me doing this class right now. Yes. Yeah, Laura, thank you for being here. Okay, so we're thinking of an example. Now just start to tune inward and coming back to where you were at the start of this session, wherever that was. What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about yourself? That's one of my favorite questions. It's one of the best ones to ask when you're going through a really tough moment, when you're not really seeing the light. You're like, okay, well, what am I learning about myself, at least in that moment? So think about, what are you learning about yourself? I know one thing I'm learning about myself right now in this moment is that how much I enjoy, even though we don't see each other right now and we don't hear each other, just a sense of connection, even just by sharing our thoughts, actually feels very nourishing to me. And that helps me honor my self-worth for actually making time to interact with people, even if it's through, not in person, but if it's through a way where you are in a space that is more vulnerable, it's more open, that creates a deeper connection. So I know that honoring that worth for me to make time for moments like this with you. So what am I learning about myself? Self-worth is low. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And this is all, I'm going to use that word perfect again. It's all beautiful. And thank you for being so honest and open that I am happier when I'm in alignment with my authentic self. I have delicate feelings that are easily bruised when someone says something unkind to me or don't appreciate what I do for them. Yeah. That I'm much more motivated when I'm surrounded by other people's energies. That my self-worth is fragile. I like writing daily haikus. They are short versions of checking in with myself. Yes. Wow. So powerful, this experience. And Florence just joined, and she's on a discovery of self and learning that I am beautiful, truly inside and out. I'm resilient. I'm healing continually. I can process my trauma, embrace it, not run away from it anymore. I can sit with it and not be afraid. Yes. Wow. Let's just pause and sit that and just take a moment to celebrate where just all of us being here, whether our self-worth feels low or high, wherever it feels, that we are here together supporting each other. What an empowering experience. Can you feel that through the internet? It's not through the internet, it's like energy out through that way. So as we're wrapping up this opportunity, this time before questions appear, notice, okay, what you've learned about yourself, and maybe a gift you'd like to give yourself, something you'd like to do for yourself to celebrate your self-worth. I invite that opportunity for you. Something you'd like to celebrate for yourself. By a gift, I mean, it could literally be, I'm going to go for a walk outside. That's a gift. Again, I'm going to use that meditation one, because for me to get to walk away for 10 minutes from kiddos is like, I did it while they're being watched. So what gift would you like to give to yourself? Maybe it's, being here in this session next week, giving yourself this time next week too, whatever it may be. It looks like this is a good space. We all have collectively created it with our heart, soul, and spirit. Yes. So think about a gift you'd like to give to yourself, to honor your self-worth, let's say, to celebrate and honor your self-worth. Maybe it's spending some time painting if you enjoy creativity of that sort. Maybe it's going to pick some flowers, buying yourself some flowers. It could be writing a haiku for yourself. Whatever feels yummy and delicious. It could be the simplest, smallest little thing. Maybe writing yourself a love note. Just saying, that's like one of the yummiest things. A love note for yourself. Ooh. If you're feeling low, give yourself a love note. If you're feeling high, give yourself a love note. They're great in all situations. Okay. We've gone from exploring what's worth to celebrating yourself with a gentle gift, one that you deserve is being of it. So I'd love to thank you and now open up for some questions. I want to honor that it's 8:30. So Monica, I'm not sure the process here for going from here after, if people want to stay on for a couple minutes or if that's something that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who need to get off, feel free to drop off. I think I'll send out an email with these questions. So in case you guys want to journal on them, we'll have them. So don't worry about taking notes. So yeah, if you want to stay on, you can unmute yourself and turn on your video if you choose and ask questions or share observations.
Thank you, Monica. And I'd love to, again, for anyone hopping off now, if you'd like to learn more or connect with me, this is the work I do with coaching, one-on-one coaching, and also group coaching or business groups to cultivate culture. So feel free to contact me. I'll just type it in the section here as well. And feel free to pop on with questions. How was that for everybody? That's what I'm curious about. What was that like?
The perfect way to start the day.
I really appreciate these being in the morning. Just that this idea of how will I go into my day, giving myself a gift of self-worth.
And weekend.
Yes, And if you prefer, you could type in a question too, if that's something you prefer. Just know that's available to you.
Well, I know the gift I'm going to give myself right now is to take a walk and think through this. It's been really thought-provoking. Okay, well,
Yeah, I
I
have a
am
question if
so
there's
grateful.
time.
Yes.
Yes, I guess my thought is when you realize you want to set a boundary or have a conversation with family members or whoever, how do you get this started? Like, let's talk about who's making dinner tonight, or let's talk about, something that we want to change. To be respectful as opposed to coming from a place of, okay, I've had it.
Mm. Yeah, Dana, thank you for asking. So I'm hearing okay, I want to do something about this now, who's going to make dinner? How do I create that boundary and do it in a way that's loving and honors both parties? One question I'd love to kind of start that with is just exploring how you want to feel during it. How do you want to feel during that conversation? So if it helps, you can even picture yourself, visualize yourself, make it more real about how you want to feel during that conversation to be able to see, okay, maybe notice the words that pop up for that. If it's sounds like, whether it's loving, supportive, compassionate, and start to kind of cultivate those words, gather those words together to be able to explore, okay, well, what words would, for me to ask a question, for example, what represents being loving, compassionate, or whatever it is important to me, to make sure that you're supporting maybe your boundary or your values, things that are important to you, and your relationship with whoever you're speaking with too, about what's important to you. How do you want to feel in your relationship with this person? And maybe coming from that place as well. So start with the feeling to create some words as descriptive words to help maybe create that script for yourself, which might ultimately also help bring it back to kind of coming from the heart. How does that resonate, Dana?
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, so focus on how I want to feel and then create a script. And as opposed to wait till I'm in a moment of being angry or frustrated.
Yes, and it's simply, it's one approach. There's so many, I suppose, different approaches. One thing I always encourage is kind of coming from, or just acknowledging what is right for you. So what feels right for you in your relationship? Because only you know what feels right coming out of your mouth and feels authentic, right? To compare to like someone else creating a script for you, it'd feel like funny. So thinking about how you want to be, who do you want to be, and in a way that still honors your boundaries and is still whatever the words that you want to feel come up. And that's a challenge. It's not easy,
Thank
is
you.
it?
No,
Yeah.
but thank you. It's a good start.
Thank you, Dana. Yes.
There was a
Madison,
question
I
on
saw you
chat.
pop up.
I have a question, if that'll work. Hi, first off, just pop it in the video. Thank you for hosting this and putting this up this morning. It's such a nice way to start the morning. So thank you, lots of appreciation there. I think the answer will probably fall in line with what you just spoke to, but when the moments of lack of self-worth are high, when you find it presenting itself in the day-to-day, whether it's obstruction of flow or anxiety that prevents you from being able to connect with others, all the internal chatter that kind of stops you from just living your best life. Do you find that it's more helpful to maybe tackle that from when you're in a good spot, not that spot of anger that you and Dana were kind of mentioning about, to harness those practices of elevating self-worth? Because once you're in a more negative spot, it's a little bit harder. Or do you have a ritual when you're in those kind of darker places to move yourself out of it instead of sitting there with that?
Yes.
Really.
Medicine, that's something we all find ourselves in too, right? We're in the middle of the hot spot and we're like, and how do I navigate it in that moment too? A couple things come to mind is one, a couple practices, and Dana, this might be relevant for you as well. The practice of using a word to trigger, like a trigger word for yourself. And all in our house, because we have two little kids, and one of my 3.5-year-old like kind of gets a little crazy sometimes, and like I do. And a word we've come up with is just lollipop, and lollipop means to breathe. So instead of, because it's funny, it's quirky, it's just kind of weird, so it kind of lightens the mood automatically. And instead of saying, "Hey, breathe," which is like kind of like being, it's like someone forcing you, telling you to breathe, which I don't know. I don't like being told that. It doesn't feel very comforting. But lollipop is like, hey, it's a reminder, just let's pause and breathe in the middle of this moment. And do we always remember it? No, but it's something that it starts, because it's just funny, it almost starts to become more common now. We start to, I start to say it to myself, I lollipop myself. And it's been a way to stop that heat from rising, that energy of negative self-talk, and just a pause and be like, okay, lollipop, breathe, which allows us to get back into our body at least a little bit. And then to speak to the concept of whether we do it in the moment or before. It reminds me of so training as a professional athlete. We train in detail, all the finite details, say as a goalkeeper, how to reach to the high corner. We practice that in practice, but when we're playing the game, as you all know, when you've done something you love, you're not thinking about what you're doing. You're just in the moment. You're in the flow. You're in that beautiful, beautiful flow. So the more you practice it outside in a safe, supportive place, the easier it is to just, it'll naturally turn into a habit. It'll naturally turn into a way of being. Compared if you just practice it in the heat of the moment. So practice that loving kindness piece out here in light, in a safe time, and then bring it'll naturally come more into that other space. How does that sound, Madison?
Yeah, no, I'm just grateful I'm absorbing everything that you're sharing. Yeah, no, I love the lollipop idea, just because it shakes you out of whatever steamroll that you're on in your brain. And it's like, whoa, okay, remember, life is serious, but it's also not so serious. Like, we can just get out of the internal narrative. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Powerful, getting out of the internal narrative, right? Getting out of there so you can live here, so you can live.
Yeah.
Or and from here to here.
The breathing thing, because it can sound like there's something wrong with how you are right now, so you need to reset yourself to a better spot, versus lollipop is just kind of like, okay, shake it out.
Like a check-in, like, hey, check-in, am I breathing right now?
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Madison. Do I have any recommendations? Paula's asking for reading more about self-worth. Fascinating question.
We could also put this in the email that we send out if you think of resources.
Yeah, I would like to do that. Paula, please expect that in the email. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. And Jaime, I really appreciate your time and thoughtfulness, and just fantastic.